So what is stress? Well, stress is the feeling of being under a lot of pressure. You might feel overwhelmed, like you can't cope and that you've got no control over anything. And this feeling of stress affects our ability to think clearly, function effectively and enjoy life. So what can we do when we feel stressed? Well, let's imagine that this bucket represents your ability or capacity to deal with stress. And every time there's a stressful event, imagine water going into that bucket. So money problems, relationship issues, workload, health problems, life in general, each time adding more and more water to that bucket. And most stress buckets have the room to manage a few stressful events at a time, but when water keeps being poured in, you get close to the limit of what your bucket can hold, and by the time the stress bucket is nearly full, all it takes is a seemingly small thing to tip the water over the edge. And when our stress bucket looks like this, we start to think and act differently. We might be more reactive, irritable, and critical. And while it might seem like there's nothing you can do about some of the stress triggers, there are expert-backed ways to de-stress right now and to effectively drill some holes into the bottom of your stress bucket so that you're getting the water dripping out and reducing the likelihood of your stress bucket overflowing with stress. So take control, journal. Keep a journal of when you feel stressed and what is happening in that moment or what's leading up to that moment. You might want to rate your stress on a scale of 0 to 10 to help you to understand when you're most vulnerable to stress. Doing this will help you to identify if there's any way that you can problem solve or reduce the likelihood of this stress trigger happening, or it might help you to see that you need to plan in some de-stress tips when you're most likely to feel stressed. Getting outdoors has been shown to be really effective for reducing stress. Research shows that the vitamin D boost from sunlight can elevate our levels of kind of feel-good serotonin. Plan in pleasurable things. So our diary can often be filled with lots of routine and necessary activities all day, every day. So food shopping, working, housework, bills, repeat. And when this happens, our stress bucket has no way of emptying that water, that stress. But by planning in pleasurable activities, you're allowing your stress bucket to have somewhere for that water to escape to prevent that overflow. Talk to people. Sometimes other people have a way of seeing our scenario or our situation in a more balanced, detached way. Share your difficulties with someone and see if they can see your situation in a helpful way that will help you to see it in a more balanced way as well. Be active. Exercise won't make your stress disappear, but the act of moving will reduce some of the emotional intensity that you're feeling, clearing your thoughts and letting you deal with your problems more calmly. Do something with your hands. So doing something creative like gardening, crafting, knitting, painting, drawing, any of these things can get you in the flow. And the flow is a state of mind where you're completely absorbed in something, you lose track of yourself and time, and you're totally absorbed in the process of making or doing something. And this act of being in the flow has been shown to reduce anxiety. It's a mood booster and it can release dopamine, which is a feel-good chemical to combat stress. And gratitude. Several studies have shown that the act of showing gratitude can activate the release of that feel-good chemical dopamine. At the end of each day, write down what went well and what you liked most about your day. And this can be something that you do on your own. Perhaps you write it on a piece of paper in a journal, or perhaps you add it to a gratitude jar. Or it might be a spoken act that you do with a friend or a loved one.